Hey guys, it's Fo and I'm back with another video. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to create your own budget. If you're interested in learning how to create a budget, stay tuned. Hey guys. All right. So I'm going to be walking you through how to create your budget. So there are two options when you're thinking about creating a budget. So there's a monthly budget and there is what we call a paycheck budget. Now, a monthly budget is exactly what it sounds like. You look at your finances from a monthly standpoint. So before the next month begins, you'll look at how much income you have coming in and how much expenses you have going out. And then with a paycheck budget, you look at it per paycheck. So you say you get paid on a Friday, the Thursday before, you'll look at how much money you have coming in, and then you'll plan the expenses that will fall into that pay period before you get paid again. So think about it as like the 1st and the 15th. If you get paid on the 1st, then you have a certain amount of bills that will happen or come out between the 1st and the 15th. And then when you get paid on the 15th, you have those bills that come out between the 15th and the 30th or 31st. So I'm going to walk through both instances of budgeting. I'm going to be using my budget template, my budget binder, digital budget binder that can be found in my shop. So I'll leave the link to this actual template that I'll be using in the description if you want to purchase it. And so we'll walk through it. So this budget binder includes a lot more than just a budget. So I have a monthly budget template, a paycheck budget template. I have an expense tracker, bill payment tracker, the debt snowball worksheet, debt payoff tracker, and a savings goal / emergency fund tracker. So I'll focus primarily on budgeting, but I will go through the other tabs just in case you're interested in what all is included in the actual digital budget binder. All right. So here is an example of a budget. And I'm just going to show you how it will work with this budget template, but I will explain budgeting in general as we walk through it. So on this particular template, if I were going to do my monthly budget, I would go down and select what month I'm actually looking at. So right now, at the time of this recording, we are in the month of June. So let's say that I want to create my budget for the month of July. So I will go here and click July. And as you can see, it will update to reflect that this is July's budget and July's spending summary. Now, each month, if you want to use this, obviously for the duration of a year, you could just duplicate this particular template or the blank template that I have here. Just right click it and hit duplicate. And then every month you can create a new budget template. So I'm just going to go to this example. So this is for the month of July, and I've already kind of filled it out with quantities in here. These are not real numbers. They're just made up, but let's just assume that, you got paid. Let's change it to, $3,500 a month. We can drop it down, right? So I'm going to say I'm planning to get $3,500 from my job. And then I have a side hustle that I'm going to get $950 from. So you guys know I have a video on side hustles. So I'll link that above. But you can, consider some of the side hustles that you want to do. So you put in what your planned income is going to be in this box here. And then as the month progresses, you would then actually go in and put what your actual income. So say this is on the 28th of the month before you're creating your budget, you put in what you plan or expect to get from your 9-to-5 job and what you expect to get from your side hustles for the next month. And then when you actually get paid, you're going to put in the actual amount that you got. So if I was expecting $3,500 from my job and miraculously they paid me $500 more, in the actual column, I would go in and put how much I actually got paid. Now, the template is set up such that it will do all the calculations for you. So this will total up what your total planned income is going to be. And then this column will total up what the actual income was once you got paid. Now, I've gone ahead and put some different categories and expenses, typical expenses that you would see in a budget in this template. So you would then do the same thing for giving. I personally tithe. My husband and I tithe. If you tithe, then you would put 10% of whatever that income is. Now we tend to do it off of our gross income, which is before taxes and everything comes out. But you can also do it off your net. It doesn't really matter, guys. But then you would put that amount here, and that's honestly just 10% of whatever your income is. So in this case, I would just do 10% of my planned income, and that will be $445. And then with the actual, it will end up being $495. So then you would just go through and put whatever your planned expenses are for the month. Now, at the beginning of the month, obviously these will be zero until they are actualized. So I've gone in and I put examples of how much all this stuff is going to cost. Let's say rent or mortgage is only $900, and car payment may only be, I don't know, $350 or something. So you have all these different categories: housing, transportation, and I'm just going to keep scrolling. You have personal care items, so the things that you need to get from the store. If you want to go shopping, there's a clothing option there, entertainment. All that stuff is in this particular template. You would just go through and then you would plan out how much you are going to spend for each of those categories. Now, if this is your first time budgeting, the best way to figure out how much you're going to spend is to go back and look at your last 3 months bank statements and calculate how much you spent in different categories. Like, how much over an average have you spent in the last 3 months on food? How much have you spent on groceries? How much have you spent on electricities? Getting that average will get you a good starting point for what you should plan for the month. Now, the big thing is this section here, which is your balance tracker. If you are going through and you have your income that's planned and then you have all of your expenses and that number is negative, then you have a problem. That means your expenses outweigh your income and you need to reduce something. So here's an example. So say I have $930 left. That's the balance that should be left. Let's just assume we're going to up my mortgage here. Say my mortgage is $3,000 instead, right? That's a huge jump, right? Then you have a negative. That tells me that something needs to be reduced in my budget. Obviously, in this case, the mortgage is extremely high. I'm sorry, it's not $100. The mortgage is extremely high, but it could be something that's over $30 or whatever. And you could just go in and plan out what you want to reduce. A lot of times what you tend to reduce, or what's the easiest thing to reduce, is the grocery costs, the dining out, those subscriptions, those gym memberships that you don't use, internet and cable, like all that stuff can be reduced. But this is the idea, is to go through and look at what are my planned income, what's my planned income, and what are my planned expenses for the month as a whole. And then as you incur those expenses, which you will track on your expense sheet, then you will see, well, do I need to make adjustments? Am I going over my budget? And so that's the point of how you're going to budget. Now, in this particular case, the actual balance, so say the month has gone by and I've added everything into the budget template, the actual balance is zero. What that tells me is I have allocated or spent all of the money that has come in. Now, this is not a bad thing. This is actually what we call the zero-based budget. Zero-based budget essentially means that you are going to identify where every cent of your income is going to go. It doesn't necessarily mean you spend it all, but it means it has been allocated somewhere. So for instance, I have on the plan balance, or the plan budget for the month, I have a balance of $830. That means I have $830 extra dollars that need to be allocated somewhere. So in that case, what I would do is I would put extra toward my debt if I had debt. So I would say, well, I have a plan balance of $830. Let me just put $830 extra towards my debt so that that balance can be zero. That means every cent has been allocated. It's going somewhere. It's not in limbo. It's not just sitting in the checking account, but it's going somewhere, whether that's paying off extra debt, whether that's going towards savings, somewhere that money has been allocated when you budget. Okay. So if you look over to the right in this particular template, I've made it where it will track how much you've spent in each of those categories for that month. So as you can see, you plan to spend this amount for giving, but in actuality, you spent $545 instead. So it just goes through each category and it'll tell you how much was planned and how much it was actual. And then if you're a visual person, you can go in and see, well, what's taking up the majority of my money. And as you can see, in a lot of cases, it's usually debt. It's usually housing, and then it's usually debt. And giving is pretty much up there too. I actually did a video that outlined the percentages of how we spent our household income and what that looks like from a breakdown standpoint. But you can visually see that, hey, man, I'm spending a lot of money on debt. I'm spending a lot of money in housing, and that can give you a visual to say, hey, maybe I need to cut back on some things, or maybe I need to pay off this debt because it's a significant amount of how I spend my income. And then you can look at it from a plan versus actual standpoint as well. So visually, you have the option to see, well, I plan to spend this much on housing and I actually spent this much. I went higher than what I planned to. Or I actually plan to spend this much on food, but I spent less. So these are all visual cues to help you make decisions about your spending and to make adjustments. So again, with a monthly budget, the idea is to plan the month prior and put in how much income you think you're going to get. And then you can go in and put how much it actually is as the expenses are being incurred. And then you can get an overall picture of what you need to do to adjust within the month. Now, that is the monthly budget, which again, I have a blank template here. But then there's the paycheck budget. And the thing I like about the paycheck budget is that it's a lot more dynamic. Like you can make changes within a pay period more easily than you can within a month. So with the paycheck budget method, is pretty much biweekly, and that's what my husband and I do every paycheck, or the day before we get paid. We'll go in and we will allocate how we're going to spend our money. We'll look at how much income we have. We'll have our calendar with us to know, hey, there's a birthday coming up that we need to buy a gift for. There's an event that we need to get something for, or we might need to have new clothes. Whatever the case may be, we can figure it out within that 2-week time frame and make adjustments more dynamically than I think a monthly budget would allow. Either way is good. It's all about preference, but I think personally, the paycheck budget allows you to be more flexible with your spending. So it's the same thing like the monthly budget. I would come here and say, hey, this is for pay period. I don't know. I'm just picking a random date, guys. I don't know. The 28th, right? And so your template will update to say budget for July 28th paycheck. July spending summary will update. All those things will update automatically. So same thing, same scenario here. You go in and say, well, this is how much I'm planning to spend in each of these categories. Now, the difference between the monthly budget template and then this paycheck budget template is you are left to fill in most of it on your own if you want to. Actually, if you purchase this will all be blank. I won't have that filled in for you, but you can fill in what your bills are, what your giving is going to be, what your savings is for, what your miscellaneous expenses are. So you would go in and put whatever your bill is, and then you will put the plan for that pay period in the actual. Now, the thing about it is all your bills are not going to fall within one pay period. Hopefully they don't all fall in the same pay period, but only some of your bills. So then for that pay period, you only list what bills are going to fall in that pay period, and you do the same thing. What is your plan and what is your actual? And much like the monthly budget template, you'll get the same thing here. You'll get a summary of your giving, your saving, all that stuff. You'll get a visual of how much where your money is being spent, and then you'll get a visual of your plan versus your actual when it comes to spending. So I'm actually going to go ahead and clear this template out now. And so you will have the ability to go in and list all of the things that that you're going to be spending your money on. So those are what was in this, or what is in the example, are actually things that we have in our budget template, things that we pay for, and things that we look at on a biweekly basis. But obviously on the template, you can go in and put whatever it is that your bills are and what you're saving towards. So I hope that makes sense. When it comes to budgeting, you want to plan ahead. You want to look at how much income am I getting in? What are my expenses going to be? How much are they going to be? And then as the week or the month progresses, you want to input that information into your template. Now, this one is set up pretty simple, but as you can see, I just put a number in here. But obviously, as the month goes by, you might go out to eat more than once. And so quite simply, you just put in the equation, whatever you spent. So equals, say I spent $20 one place and then I spent $10 another place. You're just going to say equals 20 plus 10. And then as you add more stuff, you can just say plus 15, whatever the case may be. You can just add as it goes along. So that's what you would do if you were keeping track of your expenses. So you want to add your expenses as they happen. You don't want to wait until the end of the month to then see, oh, I spent all this. But as you have expenses, you want to go in and you want to add those to your calculation. So that's the monthly template, and then that's the paycheck template. They're all essentially the same thing. How much am I making? How much are my expenses? What is my balance? If my balance is greater than zero, then I have the option of applying that money somewhere else, maybe towards extra debt, maybe towards saving. Who knows? Maybe you want to cash it out and do something for yourself. But you just want to allocate that money, every cent of the money that's coming into your household. So I mentioned some other tabs on this particular budget binder, the expense tracker. So as you have expenses, you can come in here each month to say, hey, on 6/1/20, I bought clothes. I don't know. Clothes from Amazon. And you can categorize it into one of these categories. So in this case, it will be personal, and then you can put the amount. Say I spent $50 on Amazon on clothes. And so this really just kind of tracks what your spending is for the month. And again, as you make those purchases or you have those expenses, you do want to go back and add them into your budget template, into the actual column for that particular category. Okay, then you have the bill tracker, payment tracker, which I absolutely love this particular template because you can go in and say, here are all the bills that I have. I have internet, I have cable, I have phone, I have electricity, I have gas. You can list all of the bills that you have to pay on a monthly basis, how much those bills are. So for the most part, your cable bill is going to be the same every month. Your phone bill should be the same. Your internet should be the same. Like those things should be the same every month. You list how much it is, what day is due on each month. And then as the month goes by, you can just check this box to say, hey, it's been paid. I paid it for June, July, whatever the case may be. And so obviously, if you're missing a check mark, you haven't paid that bill and you need to go back and pay it. So this is a pretty snazzy tool that you can use to actually track your bill payments to make sure you are paying all of your bills. Then there's the debt snowball. You guys know that I kind of made my debut almost on YouTube because of my debt-free story. And so I use the debt snowball to pay off my debt. And that's essentially a method where you look at your debt from the smallest to the largest. You pay the smallest debt off first, and then you gradually take the money that was used to pay the small debt off and apply it to the next debt, so on and so forth, until you paid off all of your debt. And the way that you gauge what debt to pay off first is by creating a list of all your debts from smallest to largest. And so this is what that worksheet is. You can put whatever your debt is, you put what the starting balance is or how much you have left to pay, what the interest rate is, your minimum payment, and then the day that you paid off. This is literally just where you can list out your debts from smallest to largest. And as you pay them off, you can just put your payoff date. Then we have the debt payoff tracker, which is also pretty cool. You can go in here and name whatever your debt is, your goal payoff date, your starting balance, and then as you make payments towards that debt, you can put your payment amount and it will automatically calculate what the new balance is. So for instance, I have an example debt of $25,000. I make a payment on 5/21 of $500. It updates the balance to $24,500. I make another payment on 6/1 of $250. It updates the balance to $24,250. And say I go in and say, hey, it's 6/5/20. I'm going to make a $300 payment. It will now update the balance. So as you continue to make payments, it will update the balance for you, so you're aware of how much you have left to pay off on that particular debt. And you can do this for the debts that you have. Again, with any of these templates, if you want to make another tab, you can just hit right click, duplicate, and that will give you more space to do more things. And then the last tab in this particular binder is the savings goal tracker. I really like this one as well. So you can put what you're saving for. So you may have different sinking funds, which are different savings accounts for different goals, but you can put what you're saving for, and then you can put the goal amount and then the goal date. And what it will show you is the percentage that you have complete, and it'll show you how many days left you have until your goal. And when you reach your goal, it'll tell you your goal is reached. So let's say I have a $2,000 goal. It'll update and say, well, you're only 50% complete because you only have $1,000 here. And I give you a little encouragement here. You can do it. You can reach your goal. So this is pretty cool. As the days go by, you can go ahead and input your different amounts. So your starting balance is $1,000. You don't need to update that because it pulls from whatever your ending balance was. You can put what your deposit was. Say I deposited $5,000. Then it's going to say my ending balance is $500. But say I came in here and I took money out. Then I would go in and say, well, I took $50 out, and it will update my balance again. So it's a pretty cool way to see how you're trending to your savings goal, whatever that may be. It can be for your emergency fund. It could be for, travel. It could be for college. It could be for Christmas, whatever the case is. You can track all of that here. So I hope that you guys find this binder helpful. And I also hope that you understood the whole concept of doing a monthly budget or a paycheck budget. Either way is a great way to manage your money. You want to make sure when you do your budget, you're planning ahead, and that you're also taking into account what's happening that month or during that pay period. Know what birthdays you have coming up. Know what events you have coming up so that you can account for that in your monthly or paycheck budget. All right. If you guys have any question, leave a comment below, and I'll be glad to answer them for you. But until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.